Does it surprise you a year on how affected you still are by those events and by your desperate attempt to save PC Keith Palmer?
I think all MPs are. I was really pleased the Prime Minister led the tributes yesterday in Prime Minister's questions. This was a normal day in Parliament. The division bell went and we were all moving towards the chamber, and then something that you never expect to hear anywhere, let alone in Parliament, is the sound of high-velocity gunshots, which just caused understandable panic and mayhem, and people trying to disperse everywhere, not sure quite what to do. And I found myself in that area where the incident was unfolding, and immediately realised the police that we work with every day in and out, that part of our community are our friends, had moved into operational mode, and there was a gun line of over 30 guns, I think, all pointing towards the carriage gates where the incident was, defending us, and that's what their job was. And huge respect to all police officers up and down the country. They don't know how their day is going to unfold, and they go to work and they just get on with it. And that's one reflection I have. And then I saw, PC Keith Palmer lying there, and a couple of officers. There was huge loss of blood, and so that's when I stepped forward to try and help. But no, it is a somber reflection and a recognition also what a dangerous world we're living in. This was one of a series of attacks on mainland Britain.
You've been in the army, of course, so you have much more experience of live gunfire than anybody else. And then, as you say, to hear that noise of high-velocity firing, I'd imagine everybody around you was kind of trying to identify, because we hear all sorts of strange noises in the big urban city, but you would have known almost immediately what it was. Yes,
I mean, there was instructions were being provided by the police as well as to where to go to disperse, to move away from the actual scene.
As you say, these police officers are there to defend your life. And he'd been stabbed multiple times. He was alive when you knelt down beside him to try to give him mouth to mouth. How long did you spend with him? And what are your thoughts now as you reflect back on what happened to him, putting his life on the line in order to protect all of those people?
I hope I speak for all members of Parliament and indeed, the public. Our thoughts and prayers are with PC Keith Palmer's friends and family. He did what he loved doing. He applied to stay on to do this work, and loved every minute to be affected by this. Life goes on. The next day, Parliament did sit. We weren't going to stop. And likewise, these activities, these terrorist attacks take place, designing to try rip our communities apart. And they do the opposite. They make us stronger. They make us more determined to say we're going to stand up to this sort of thing in the future.
It was bizarre, though, in the sense that we hoped, thought, believed it was a one-off. It was the beginning of a series of terrorist attacks that it's now sort of extraordinary to look back on, because a few weeks later there was the attack on Manchester Arena at the Ariana Grande concert, then there was the attack at London Bridge, and then there was the attack at Finsbury Park. Are we safer now?
I think, well, go back to when I first was made aware of terrorism as such, with the loss of my brother in 2002. That was a long time ago.
In the Bali bombings.
15 years ago, and today these attacks are still taking place. And so if you ask that question, we are going through a very dangerous and volatile period. And there is a big question for us when I think the nation as a whole has become a little risk-averse as to what nations do stand up to resurgent nations doing their own thing, to extremists, to non-state actors. And I think we're at a pivotal moment that we're heading towards today. Do we just look after ourselves and defend ourselves, or do we go and see where things are going wrong? Because Al-Shabaab or Boko Haram or Al-Nusra or Al-Qaeda, all these flourish where there isn't any governance. And not only that, the religion of Islam itself, it's being used, peaceful religion. These terrorists have a scant understanding of what they're doing. They think they're going to go to heaven. They're going to be rewarded in paradise for what they do. And that's the work that we need to embark on.
I wonder, Tobias, on the year anniversary, how often you think about that day, whether it's reminded every day you walk into Parliament, maybe there's a moment, and also for your family as well, because you've got a young son, you've got a family, and how hard it was for them, because you said Parliament had to sit the next day, we had to go back, we had to be seen, but how difficult for them to let their dad go in, let your wife's husband go in on that day?
there is a determination that we will not be defeated, and we walk by the location every day. It's right at the front of the main entrance, so all MPs are very, very conscious, and we certainly will be thinking about that today as we have a series of services. But let's not also forget Jo Cox, was killed by an extremist too, and her plaque is actually inside the chamber itself that we all look at. So we're very conscious that we live in a very, very dangerous world, and it is up to us to work out what the strategy is, what is our posture that we're going to hold in order to be the exemplar, to stand up for the values that we've spent decades in millennia actually developing. That's what we need to remember, is not be defeated by these terrorists, but be positive and move forward. And that's the message that I told my son.
Tobias Ellwood, thank you so much for talking to us this morning. I know, it must have had an extraordinary effect on you, what happened last year, and of course the families as well. And I'm sure there are people still recovering from what happened to them a year ago. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.